Exactly. This is a spot where Death and Taxes just has a lot of things that naturally answer a Merit Lage token very well. It plays Caracas, it has Flicker Wisp, and it doesn't pay any life for its lands and has ways to gain life, so it can just take a hit from a Merit Lage sometimes and crack back to kill the Golgari Depths player.
Duress hits an Aether Vial. It fortunately does hit here. So Gaieski's hand is going to be, well, there's the Caracas you mentioned. Caracas, Plains, Mother of Runes, Stoneforge Mystic, Palace Jailer, and then I believe there's Sanctum Prelate is the last card?
Yes.
So
and these are all cards that we see are going to play against the Merit Lage. We're going to see Gaieski able to just stick a creature via Mother of Runes, protect it, apply pressure, and then even has Palace Jailer to take down a Merit Lage.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you were saying, where a lot of times it's weird to think that a mono-white deck has the most interaction against combo, but it really does. You mentioned Caracas, Flicker Wisp, both as an answer to Merit Lage and as a blocker to Merit Lage. It also gets Rishid Import, Wasteland, Phyrexian Revoker, all these cards that just play against the combo.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a situation where Death and Taxes can only interact with a handful of things and is very good at interacting with them. It's good at dealing with lands via Rishad Import, Wasteland, and it's good at dealing with creatures. And this is a land creature combo deck.
All right, so Mother of Runes was cast. Matthew Dilks, turn 2, goes for 8 Abrupt Decay to get Mom off the board. Rishid Import into Stoneforge Mystic for Gaieski. He has this Caracas, but he's waiting to expose that one until the Merit Lage is actually made because of crop rotations and wastelands out of Dilks' deck.
Exactly. You just want to play a little bit more defensively, not ever give Dilks the chance to deal with this Caracas proactively.
The find was Umezawa's Jite. And though Dilks is a combo deck, his deck actually has a lot of X1s. If a Jite gets counters on it, it can be pretty relevant here.
Exactly. There's also the point where it just can put you above 20 life, which means
you can take
a hit.
Exactly.
You take a hit from the Merit Lage, and then you can deal with the Merit Lage at sorcery speed.
Yeah, and think of somehow in that whole list of cards we talked about the answers Merit Lage, we left Swords to Plowshares off it, but hey, that's another answer.
So that technically plays 20 life is a lot of life to give your opponent. When you are a fair creature deck, that's a lot. That's several turns.
Ethan, without a different land, it does end up putting Caracas onto the board here. Casts Aether Vial off that port. It looks like Dilks is going to copy Rishid Import, I believe, at the Thespians stage.
And this is actually fantastic for Dilks, where he can set up a situation and go, say, tap your Caracas.
Oh, yeah, you can tap the... So if there's a Hex Mage in the depths, you can tap the Caracas, then make the 20/20, and then go to work.
Exactly. And now Dilks has another copy of Thespian stage, which is just another combo piece. So you could say, tap the Caracas, and then have your other Thespian stage copy the depths.
I love it when people do things like port out a Death and Taxes deck. It just feels like so much justice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You just go, is this a problem? Is this what you've been doing to people all weekend? Oh, this is nice. I could get used to this.
Speaking of a problem, Stoneforge Mystic found Umezawa's Jite, but that's because Ethan already had the Batter Skull in hand, and end step, Stoneforge Mystic puts it into play.
And this is one of the fastest just forms of pressure that the Death and Taxes deck has available to it. This is going to end the game much quicker than most things that Gaieski has available.
Now there is a Germ token. There we go. Getting that Alex Bastecki token out. The Batter Skull crashes in for 4. And Dilks porting the port on upkeep. Ethan, no more lands. He actually does have some cards that he'd love to cast here. Sanctum Prelate, Recruiter of the Guard, was picked up that turn. If he doesn't draw a land, he'll have to wait until that Vial's at 3 before making any of those cards.
Very heads-up porting from Dilks on this. He knows what Gaieski has in his hand and is saying, I'll bet you'll blank, and getting rewarded for that.
Is there a number you feel like Sanctum Prelate is supposed to be on in this matchup?
It's likely going to be 1. That turns off crop rotation, the hand disruption, some of the removal, hurts Sylvan Safekeeper.
More development for Gaieski. Gets the Umezawa's Jite onto the board and the Aether Vial up to 2.
And this is just Dilks still just trying to buy time until he can find a copy of Dark Depths.
Now, if you set a Sanctum Prelate on 1, that would turn off your own Swords to Plowshares.
That's true. That is not the answer you're generally trying to fight for, but Gaieski finding this copy of Wasteland is pretty huge here.
Right, so now he has Wasteland to go with Rishadan Port. That Wasteland, one of the key cards against the Depths deck, of course, it interacts with Dark Depths.
Dilks just drew a crop rotation.
Okay, so we have a crop rotation. That means any of these lands could turn into Dark Depths. You can sometimes actually get around this by using Rishadan Port to tap the Wasteland.
Yes, and you can see Dilks kind of trying to add things up and go, okay, I have this, this costs this much mana, and if I do this now, how does that line up?
Yeah, Wasteland's ability there is a tap sacrifice ability, so if it's tapped, it can't destroy another land.
And he has to be careful with this, because this Vial, if it gets up to 4, this Palace Jailer is just going to be able to threaten the Merit Lage.
Well, it can now, but let's look at this. Sylvan Safekeeper from Dilks.
Sylvan Safekeeper is very strong, but not in the face of Umezawa's GT.
Right, and that's kind of what we're talking about where these X1s in the Golgari deck actually, you know, do care about a GT.
Exactly. You know, how many lands are you going to sacrifice to protect the Safekeeper when you need to sacrifice 2 lands and spend 2 other mana for your combo?
Back to Ethan we go. Vials up to 3. He draws Horizon Canopy. And Aether Vial on 3. We have some options. Sanctum Prelate, Recruiter of the Guard. It's going to be the Prelate.
Uno.
And I like how that plays out where you tap the Vial, and once he says, I'm tapping Aether Vial, if Dilks wanted to crop rotate, that was his last opportunity. Once the Prelate's in play, it's already in play with the number on it. There's no, you say 1, in response, I crop rotate.
Exactly. We see this trick out of the Humans deck in Modern time and time again with Meddling Mage. Tap 2 in response to your fetch, and...
Yeah, and there's a swing, and the Prelate was set on 1. At that point, the lock had more or less been assembled from Gaieski, and you see Dilks picking up the cards. There's GT counters, there's a Prelate on 1, there's a Wasteland. That's just not a thing you're going to get through.
Exactly. This is what the Death and Taxes deck does. None of its individual cards are hard lock pieces, but you go, okay, you have to jump through this hoop. Also, you're taking 4, and jump through this, and this, and this.
It's a ton. So game 1 goes to Ethan Gaieski. Taking a look at the sideboard at Dilks. He has some options. 3 Surgical Extraction, 2 Liliana the Last Hope, 2 Rite of Consumption. So that's one that lets him sacrifice the Merit Lage to immediately do 20 in case he's concerned about the attack step. He has 2 Pithing Needles, a Assassin's Trophy, a Toxic Deluge, a Abrupt Decay, a Marsh Casualties, a Duress, and a Caracas. So a bunch of things that actually seem like they should play here.
Yeah, what Dilks is going to be trying to do is kind of becoming a little bit grindier in this matchup. We saw that first game that comboing is just not very realistic a good chunk of the time. So you're going to see him lean into things like Marsh Casualties, Toxic Deluge, and Liliana specifically to try and just be able to pick off some of the smaller creatures that Gaieski will be presenting. And then we're going to see Assassin's Trophy, Pithing Needle, etc. to try to knock off Ethan Gaieski's lock pieces.
So, he has those on Ethan Gaieski's side. Surgical Extraction, Containment Priest, a second Sanctum Prelate, a Karn Scion of Urza, 2 Paths to Exile, 2 Chalice of the Void, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Council's Judgment, a Pithing Needle, an Aethersworn Canist, and a Leonin Relic Warder.
And most of what we're going to be seeing from Gaieski is him just shoring up exactly what we saw that last game. He's just going to be trying to put lock pieces in place and bring in the best cards here to make sure he doesn't, quote-unquote, just die out of nowhere. We're going to see things like Sanctum Prelate, Path to Exile is pretty nice. It's a better way of answering a Merit Lage than a Swords to Plowshares. And then maybe Council's Judgment if he wants just one more way to deal with it that doesn't double Matthew Dilks' life total.
Yeah, Council's Judgment does get around indestructible. Now, do you see any value in something like Surgical Extraction when he has Wastelands in his deck?
Yes, Surgical Extraction is something that lets you just take out all of the Dark Depths, which is going to make it much harder for Dilks to win. And it'll create games where Dilks just has to win with something to the effect of a Liliana ultimate, and that's a pretty tall order.
Yeah, the thing I like about attacking it out of the Death and Taxes deck is that we saw last round Dilks winning game 2 by actually just attacking his Izzet Delver opponent with 2 Vampire Hex Mages over the course of 6 turns. That kind of game plan is just never going to work here. Once the Dark Depths are gone, it's really hard for Dilks to have play.
Right, you just play out a Vampire Hexmage and you go, ha, I'll go to my combat step. And Gaieski looks down at his Batter Skull and he says, all right,
Okay.
declare attacks.
Yeah, right. Thalia trades with Hexmage, right?
Ooh,
they
that
both have
plays.
first strike. It is, yeah, when you're going to stick with so many creatures, that kind of value beatdown really doesn't work. You need the 20/20.
I don't know, Thalia and Surgical Extraction's kind of a nombo. You got to pay one for
you
the
have to pay.
Surgical. Better just cut the Thalias.
Yeah, I think you're right. You can't have any of that going on. So the next Magic set coming up, War of the Spark, we're starting to see some previews for it. That's because it is available for order. Now, it's not going to ship until Friday, May 3rd. That's the earliest we're allowed to ship the product, but you can put in an order right now at starcitygames.com/war and pre-order that today. Make sure you get a copy.
It feels like sets are just coming out so fast. We've seen some things about War of the Spark. We've seen a couple of previews from Modern Horizons now. I'm excited.
I hear this set's all Planeswalkers. Just every card's a Planeswalker.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just you open your 15-card pack, and there are like 17 Planeswalkers and a Clue Stone. That was a deep cut.
I like that one. That's a nice format. Have you ever played the Magic Online Beta? It's basically that.
What?
Yeah, so it's how you test the new cards. Okay, if you haven't...
Oh, I did that back in the day. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
they do that. Do they do that anymore?
I don't know. I haven't played it in a while, but it was
What is Magic
right,
Online?
Right
Is
when
that
no,
like
you
is that like the old version of Arena?
Oh man.
I did that for Kaladesh and it wasn't a Monkhead. A Monkhead, I think, was the first set they didn't do it on the beta.
So for those of you who never had the pleasure of being in the beta, how it would work is you would draft the set, but the packs would be all the cards from the new set with a bunch of old Magic cards that had really weird rules because they want to try to catch interaction, plus like a bunch of obelisks and tri-lands and just things to make your mana perfect. And you just draft this, and the idea is you play all the rares and just make stuff happen.
Ooh, I came from a different era where it was mostly constructed stuff that people would play, and you would have teams trying to snipe each other's decks by playing the four Memoricide 56 Swamp deck just to look at their 60.
So that was Moto before with the thing I was talking about. So we used to just be actual Magic of the set, and then at one point they determined it was better to test by doing this like wild anything goes, any interaction goes format, and then it just became this playground of first picking Savage Lands, taking whatever rares in the pack. It was pretty nice. Game 2, Matthew Dilks on the play starts out with Mox Diamond, and he's thinking about Abrupt Decaying a turn 1 Aether Vial, and that's going to be the play.
Right, and Gaieski's creatures having flash, we saw that last game where Dilks just didn't get to respond to a Sanctum Prelate. And it's also a way for Gaieski to flash in something like Palace Jailer, Flicker Wisp, etc.
Yeah, sometimes you'll even see out of Death and Taxes them keeping a hand that has about 1 or maybe 2 lands as long as there's an Aether Vial in it. You can do a lot of damage in the dark by decaying an Aether Vial.
Exactly. If we're being honest, Aether Vial is just kind of a souped-up Cavern of Souls. So this Aether Vial, this Abrupt Decay did a sinkhole impression in some respects.
We'll see now if Ethan has a functional hand. That turn he picks up his sideboard Surgical Extraction. Nothing too great to hit yet in the yard. Crop Rotation in Dilks' hand. There's the chance to go for a fast 20/20. Now, a lot of times, actually, in this matchup, Dilks will use that Crop Rotation with the one of Sagiri steps. He prefer to do that instead of finding the combo to give his Merit Lage protection from white.
Exactly. It's just a one of Vines of Vastwood.
Ooh, I like that.
Ooh,
Once.
Preaching to the choir on this one.
I wish Sagiri step pumped my creatures. So Wasteland from Gaieski to threaten the combo, but Dilks is at the ready with his own Wasteland.
And Dilks has a nice setup here where Gaieski can't afford to Wasteland the Thespian stage, or Dilks can just copy basic planes.
Yeah, he has the 2 mana up.
Right.
There was an opportunity for Gaieski to do that last turn, if that's what he wanted, when Dilks was tapped down, and he actually passed on it.
Right, and it's a spot where Gaieski just needs his mana right now. He just needs to get onto the battlefield. He needs to apply pressure, because if you give the Depth deck a bunch of time and aren't presenting pressure or lock pieces, you'll die. The thing about a 20/20 is it lines up very well against a starting life total of 20.
Yeah. Wasteland does work really well. I mean, it does make mana. The issue is that once Dilks played his own Wasteland.
Right, now Gaieski and Dilks are just in this staring contest.
Right, if Dilks taps that Wasteland to use it for mana,
Dunzo.
It's gone.
Right.
Stoneforge Mystic searches up Batterskull for Gaieski, leaving up Wasteland. Stoneforge is protected with Mother of Runes, starting to set up the pressure.
And this is something where Gaieski's kind of saying, all right, if you got it, you got it.
Gaieski's hand, Path to Exile, Surgical Extraction, Council's Judgment, Umezawa's Jite, and Batterskull. Not bad.
No, this is a spot where Gaieski, because he can just play all of his cards at instant speed thanks to Stoneforge Mystic, is just saying, okay, please.
Yeah.
Please just let me untap one more time, and I won't randomly die.
Thespian Stage copies Rishad and Port. But I love the mix here, right? So we have Land Denial, we have Port and Wasteland. You have Pressure with that Batterskull and Jite in the hand. 2 removal spells, Path and Council's Judgment, and then 1 Graveyard Hate card with Surgical. It has all the bases covered.
Exactly, and this actually opens Gaieski up to a nice line where he could Wasteland Thespian Stage, which would make Dilks crop rotation in response if he wanted to try and just trade it for the Wasteland instead of losing a land of development. And then, in response to that, Gaieski could Surgical the Thespian Stage.
Some game ones, Daryl Ayers and Edgar Magalhaes both picking up the win. And let's look at what's going on here. So Gaieski shoots off Wasteland, and in response, Dilks will crop rotate away that Thespian Stage.
Right, and Gaieski's just valuing the Surgical Extraction so highly on it hitting exactly Dark Depths.
Do you Surgical Thespian Stage here? It's not the land you want, it's a land you want.
It's close. It's very close. The issue is there are situations where that just leads to you losing the game, effectively, depending on what cards Dilks has in his hand.
I suppose if he wanted to do it, he should have done it with crop rotation on the stack as well.
Exactly, because now Dilks just got to search up another one, so that crop rotation did a stifle impression.
Wasteland is gone. That's a win for Dilks. He did have to use his crop rotation. It was not free.
The big thing here is this is very similar to what we see against the Delver decks of the format. A lot of the things that Death and Taxes is doing is just taxing mana. So if Dilks just gets to sit here and play lands, it will naturally foil whatever Gaieski's trying to do.
Swords to Plowshares, the draw from Gaieski. No more lands. He'd like a third one, a white mana, to build him toward Council's Judgment.
You know, normally, I hate when people white border cards that aren't supposed to be white border. This isn't a shot. Yeah. I know it's your thing, but
I only white border cards that are reprints.
I gotta give some credit here. This is a mono white deck in white sleeves with some extra white bordered cards. Gaieski knows what he's about.
They might be the over border sleeves here, based on how they're done. They're a little clean for being erasered. I think they're actually just the white border perfect fits.
Are you intimidated by how good Gaieski is at white bordering his cards?
If those aren't the perfect fits, then I need to just ask him how he's doing it, because I got to do it too. Then I have something to learn here.
Teach me your secrets.
Normally when I white border cards, I don't end up as bright as that.
It's time.
Dark Depths in play for Dilks. Thespian Stage. Going to go ahead and make a 20/20. And Rite of Consumption is the play. Is that just lethal?
Oh, wait. Gaieski has a Swords to Plowshares. He can plow his own creature.
Rite of Consumption. Okay, so this is something he does. I mentioned if you didn't want to have the burden of attacking, it's something you could do here.
Right, and this is such a great spot because it doesn't give Gaieski a chance to do anything like Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, etc. to deal with his Merit Lage.
So it deals damage equal to the power, I believe, of the sacrificed creature, or toughness.
Does it just deal damage? I believe it drains.
It drains. Okay, so Dilks is gonna gain that 20. Swords to Plowshares to keep Gaieski alive.
It is time to go to 1 life.
Well, you know what the problem is, Emma? Because Gaieski's at 1, he can't surgically extract the Dark Depths.
Ooh.
Yeah. If he gets some Jite counters, he can do it again. But not yet.
Right, and this is a spot where Honestly, though, he has this Batter Skull as well, and that's something that can give him life.
So yeah, and he has to do it up to 39 thanks to that right of consumption.
That is, hold on, I'll do the math. Several life.
That was a large life total swing. Yeah,
A
deals
hoot
damage.
of life.
The damage equals the sacrifice creature's power, and then he gained life equal to the damage dealt that way. So yeah, Matthew gains 20. Ethan took 20. Wasteland on Rishadan Port. Gaieski not going to respond. No, he didn't actually Stoneforge in anything.
It looks like he floated a mana.
Okay. And then here's Batterskull. Batterskull onto a Germ token. This will give him the life points to use Surgical Extraction. This game is not over.
No, absolutely not. You know, that was a big, big turn from Dilks, but that's kind of the thing you have to sometimes just shrug and say, well, this is good enough or it isn't. And that Swords to Plowshares meant that it wasn't. You know, when you're playing a combo deck where a lot of your cards just don't do a whole lot on your own, you end up in situations where there are two modes. There's crossing the finish line, and there's not crossing the finish line.
And Sylvan's Safekeeper is one of the cards remaining in Dilks' hand, but Sylvan's Safekeeper can only target creatures you control to give them Shroud. So he couldn't actually, even if he had played it to wait or something, he couldn't have given that Mother of Runes Shroud.
Exactly.
Path to Exile, I believe, on his own Stoneforge Mystic for Gaieski. Really wanting those lands.
This is incredible. This is a heads-up play.
Well, if you're planning on surgically extracting the Dark Depths, there's not much left to use Path on.
No, exactly. This is a spot where he also just has it covered with another Swords to Plowshares in his hand.
Right, he still has that one. Some good news here. Daryl Ayers winning the Modern match. So while things are not going Dilks' way, we may be looking at a finish on the Standard table.
Well, the Surgical's happening, and this is really bad for Dilks. Getting 1 point sounds so close, but in a combo deck, that is so far.
Well, Dilks is down to 35, Ethan down to 3, having to pay for this Surgical Extraction, but there's no burn out of Golgari Depths. And soon there's going to be a GT on this Germ token, and with no Depths in your deck and a GT Batterskull anything, I don't know what Golgari does.
Honestly, it's really hard to imagine a depthless Dark Depths Golgari Depths combo deck beating the card Batterskull, much less with Jit counters on it.
Yeah, Dark Depths are gone. Liliana the Last Hope was one of the ways you mentioned that he can fight, but in the face of this Batterskull, I'm not sure that's going to play either. Back where we go. A Rishadan Port that was copied a while ago from Dilks is keeping that basic plains tapped, but that's about all it's doing. The Batterskull keeps crashing in. Yeah, 7 goes Ethan. GT is the play. Going to hope to connect that next turn. Remaining cards in hand. He's got that Council's Judgment and the Swords to Plowshares. And there goes... Well, was trying to go for the Thespian stage, but Dilks is going to crop rotate again here.
Yeah, this is a spot where you're not comboing anymore, so you just got to get whatever value out of this crop rotation you can. And if this is going to let you trade that card 1 for 1, you just got to go for it.
It looks like Dilks, he doesn't have a combo anymore, so he's actually going to crop rotate into a Wasteland.
And this is, from Gaieski's side, this is when you know
that things are going well.
Yeah. When you have 3 basic planes and the best thing in your opponent's entire land combo deck that they can get is a Wasteland, you kind of have an idea that you're in a pretty good spot.
All around a tough spot for Dilks. Now his team, as I mentioned before, is up in a match and leading in the third match. Here is his best remaining card, Liliana the Last Hope.
Okay, this is theoretically a way for Dilks to end up getting back in this game.
He pluses it to shrink the germ. So right now it is a 2-3. It's not going to remove the Liliana this turn. It'll need 2 attacks to do it.
Right, and if Dilks can just find a way to protect this Liliana for a few turns, maybe destroy this Batterskull with something like an Assassin's Trophy, then this Liliana is one of the ways that he could get back in.
Yeah, and I mean, he's probably going to need another one, so Council's Judgment takes care of it. Dilks knew about the Council's Judgment from long ago.
Right, you just have to make these kind of plays because without another hand disrupting spell, that Council's Judgment is going to trade for something.
It's hard to give him, I think, another card that Dilks would pull the trigger on, or that Ethan would use to, other than Liliana. Like, what else would you use Council's Judgment on?
Exactly, and Duress is one of the cards that it's very likely Dilks just looked to shave out of his deck.
And go back over. Now the Jite suits up onto the Germ token, crashes in, 4 damage, 2 counters. Now that was actually 2 damage, 2 counters. Liliana was around last turn. That's fine. And they keep attacking in. And you see Ethan just pushing each attack here. Yeah, pump. That's the fast way to deal damage. We're having the life totals will come in soon here. I believe Dilks is somewhere in the teens now.
Gaieski saw Dilks drain for 20, and you know what?
This drains for 20.
He thought it looked good. So you know
He did
what?
himself.
I want me some of that.
Yeah, down to 17 and 21. You see, it just keeps switching. A pump again. That's another 8. So Dilks should go down to 9. Gaieski to 29.
I liked you draining for 20. What if I drain for 39? Always 1-to-1 up in the feature match.
Tap on the Wasteland. 1 more turn here for Dilks, maybe 2.
Ooh, Mother of Rune's going to get in the red
Could
zone.
attack. And Dilks extends a hand. So 2-0, Ethan Gaieski takes the win on the Legacy table. So some quick 2-0s. We have Legacy going to Ethan Gaieski. We have Modern going to Daryl Ayers, which means it's going to come down to Standard. We're here. You have Edgar Magalhaes versus Kellen Pastore. It's Esper Control and Azorius Aggro. They're currently in Game 2. And actually there's some interesting stuff going on. On Edgar's side, Search for Azcanta, Kaya Orzhov Usurper, and Teferi Hero of Dominaria. A bunch of great cards here. However, Ajani Adversary of Tyrants is in play for Kellen, and that card can be so good in this matchup.
That's a big swing. We've seen this a couple of times now where an unanswered Ajani just runs away with the game.
Yeah, and it can. Now, this is a lot for it to work through. Council Judgment takes care of the Kaya. The only card in Abe's hand, well, Kellen's hand rather, looks to be, he has 2 cards. 9 and 2 are life totals. This is accurate as Edgar transforms Search for Azcanta. He has Unbreakable Formation and 1 other card.
Well, it...
And that's, yeah, Vraska's Contempt is going to do it.
Yeah, that's the point where the Esper Control deck, if it goes longer than turn 5 or 6, it's so hard for Azorius to do anything unless it already has something like an Ajani emblem online. It's just so rough if you end up in a spot where the Esper Control deck can have the Kaya's Wrath, and then you just kind of